So most of us have unhealthy glucose levels. To give you an example, 1 billion people in the world have either type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. And that number is increasing every single day. And then in people who don't have any health issues, up to 80% of the population still has glucose spikes every single day. This leads to lots of symptoms, from mental health problems to fertility to acne to faster aging. Glucose is really important.
The best thing I hear is when somebody messages me like, Jessie, look, these are my lab results. A month ago, I had type 2 diabetes and I no longer have it. And my doctor cannot believe it. My doctor is like, how did you do that?
Meet Jessie Inchauspe, also known as the Glucose Goddess, a leading expert in glucose regulation and metabolic health, and a best-selling author. She is a recognized figure in the alternative health space and a pioneer in the blood sugar balancing movement.
I'm a scientist and I took all the latest research on glucose levels and I turned it into simple tips. These are free, they are actually kind of common sense, but now from a scientific standpoint, we understand why they work so well.
In this video, we distill the essence of her teachings and highlight the fastest way to reduce blood sugar, beat diabetes, and burn fat without exercise through her 7 life-changing hacks.
So many people are stuck in a cycle of being a victim to their cravings, being a victim to their fatigue, and they can't show up as the person they want to be. And if you switch your diet and use these hacks, you can actually be more connected to the version of yourself that you want to be. And even just a simple thing like a savory breakfast, it can deeply change how you show up throughout your day. Instead of being exhausted at 11 a.m., needing 4 coffees, feeling lethargic in your work meeting, then at 3 p.m. thinking, oh, I really want to have a nap. I would have a nap on the floor right here if I could, looking for sugar all the time. You actually have a clearer brain. Like, we know glucose spikes are linked to even just brain fog. And brain fog is a debilitating symptom to have. You can't show up as the person you want to be. I would never be able to do the work that I do if I didn't have my glucose under control.
First, let's understand what glucose spike reveals about your body's health.
There's lots of different categories of foods, but there are 2 that impact our blood sugar levels. It's starches, so that's bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, oats, and sugars, so anything sweet, from an apple pie to an orange juice. These 2 categories of foods, they're literally made up of glucose molecules. So when you eat them, they break down into individual glucose molecules, and the glucose molecules arrive into your blood. If you eat a lot of starches and sugars at once, a lot of glucose molecules are arriving into your blood, and that's what you see. That's the spike you see on your glucose monitor. Now, these spikes have a few different consequences. You know, having a few spikes here and there is not a big deal, but if you have really big spikes, which I think most of us are discovering we have, even if we don't have diabetes, that's when problems start happening. And there's basically 3 processes that take place in your body when you spike. It's chronic fatigue of your mitochondria, aging, glycation, and then insulin release. And I can go into detail into these, but these are what underpin all the negative consequences of glucose spikes.
Now, how exactly does sugar impact your cells?
The mitochondria is the factory of the cell. These little mitochondria are constantly trying to make energy for your body, and they turn glucose into energy. So you give them glucose through food, they turn it into energy, and then your brain uses the energy, your heart to pump, your ears to listen, your eyes to see. Your whole body uses this energy. And so you might think, okay, I want lots of energy, so I should give my mitochondria lots of glucose. That's the logical conclusion you might come to. But that's where it completely collapses. See, biology is a bit weird. Take the example of a plant. Plants need some water to live, but if you give them too much water, they drown and they die. The human body is kind of the same. Some glucose, amazing, steady energy. Too much glucose, and your little mitochondria start freaking out. They get overwhelmed by too much glucose arriving their way. They sort of go on strike and they get overwhelmed and stressed out, and they're not able to make energy effectively anymore because we're overloading them with too much glucose to process.
How does too much glucose impact our daily lives?
And as a human, what do you feel? You feel chronic fatigue. You wake up, you're exhausted. Thinking of going to the grocery store or picking up your kids is super tiring. There's this energy system in your body is just kind of broken. But you keep eating carbs, you know, a croissant, some bread, something sweet, but you keep being more and more tired. That's your mitochondria dysfunctioning. One thing that's interesting is that sometimes when we eat something sweet, especially in the morning, like an orange juice, we kind of feel a sense of like a rush of energy. You know, you have a big glass of orange juice and you sort of perk up for a sec. Most people think that that is energy. What's actually going on is that sugar releases dopamine in the brain. And it's the pleasure molecule. It's the same molecule that gets released when you have sex, when you play video games, when you do illegal drugs. Sugar releases dopamine. It's pleasure. It makes you kind of feel awake, just briefly. But actually, that's not energy because on the inside, your mitochondria are being damaged. So we're being tricked by sugary foods. And when we're tired, we often reach for something sugary to perk us up, but it doesn't work on the inside.
If you have glucose spikes, it's crucial to make mindful food choices. Here are the 7 life-changing hacks Jessie in Chauspe recommends to help reduce blood sugar, beat diabetes, and burn fat without exercise. Hack number 1.
Have a savory breakfast. This is probably the most difficult hack for a lot of people, but also the most powerful hack to start with. If in the morning, like most people these days, you have mostly starches and sugars, let's say you eat a bowl of cereal and an orange juice, or some bread with a jam on it, or granola with banana and honey, mostly starches and sugars, that is a big, big, big glucose spike in the morning. The problem with this is that if you have a big glucose spike in the morning, your hunger levels are going to come back up way more quickly, and your energy is going to be out of whack for the whole day. With a big glucose spike at breakfast, you are hurting your mitochondria, prevents them from making good energy for you to be able to do the stuff that you want to do. So sweet breakfast, no, you should really move on to a savory breakfast. It's going to change your life. Here are the guidelines for a savory breakfast. It should be built around protein. Sure, it can be eggs, but it can also be Greek yogurt, it can be nuts, it can be leftover meat or fish from your dinner, it can be tofu, it can be protein powder in a smoothie, etc., etc., etc. Then add some fat, add a little bit of fiber if you want. And then you can have, for example, some starch in there, so a little bit of bread, some potatoes. But importantly, a savory breakfast should contain nothing sweet, except, if you want, whole fruit for taste.
Hack number 2.
Have any type of sugar you like. They're all the same. What do I mean by this? I mean that I do not want you to believe all the crazy marketing and stuff around organic sugar, brown sugar, maple syrup, agave syrup, honey, etc. All of these things, whether you're looking at some simple white table sugar to a really fancy honey, they all contain sugar. They all contain glucose and fructose molecules, and they're all going to make a glucose spike when you have them. So pick the one that you like. Honey is not necessarily better for you than table sugar. Agave syrup is not necessarily better for you than organic, unbleached brown sugar. Just eat the sugar that you like, because when you're having sugar, it's a pleasure decision. It's not a health decision. It's purely for pleasure. So even if you're having some organic, whatever, honey-based cake, don't think that you're doing that for your health. That's for pleasure.
Hack number 3.
Pick dessert over a sweet snack. Love this one. Whenever we want to eat sugar and something sweet, which is totally fine, again, it's for pleasure purposes, there is a better time and a worse time to eat that sugar for our glucose levels. The worst time you can eat sugar for your glucose levels is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, or between meals on an empty stomach. Why the empty stomach thing? Well, because when your stomach is empty, anything you eat is going to go through your system really, really quickly and make its way to your bloodstream really, really quickly. So let's say you love chocolate cake, like me. If I had chocolate cake first thing in the morning, that would make a massive glucose spike. And then with that glucose spike would then come a crash. That crash activates the craving center in our brain and tells us to eat more sugar. So if I have sugar first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, I can be pretty sure that I'm going to spend the whole day with crazy sugar cravings. And who wants crazy sugar cravings for the whole day? Like nobody. So don't do that. Instead, when you want to eat sugar, eat it as dessert after a meal. So if I see a really good looking cookie, I'll buy it and then I'll eat it after my next meal. That way, the food from the meal that is already in your stomach is going to slow down how quickly the sugar from the sweet thing you're eating, the cookie or the chocolate cake, how quickly that sugar is going to arrive into your bloodstream. Therefore, you get all the pleasure from the sugar with less impact on your glucose levels.
Hack number 4.
The vinegar hack, that 1 tablespoon of vinegar
in a tall glass of water before a meal can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by up to 30% without needing to change what you're eating during the meal, just by adding the vinegar drink. So try this before a meal that contains carbs, starches, or sugars. And the way this works is because vinegar contains acetic acid. And acetic acid is a very cool molecule that slows down the breakdown of carbs in our digestive system. So again, slowing down how quickly carbs are going to go from our mouth to our bloodstream. That is the whole point. That's the whole thing we're trying to do here. Reduce the amount of glucose we're giving to our body and reduce how quickly that glucose is arriving in our bloodstream with all the hacks. Now, any type of vinegar works. The most popular ones being apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar. You can also do rice vinegar, cherry vinegar, whatever you want. The only one I would recommend you avoid is the very syrupy balsamic glaze, the sort of Italian aged one, because that one has quite a bit of sugar in it. So it might negate the positive effects.
Hack number 5.
Eating your food in the right order. Scientific studies have shown us that if we eat the elements of a meal in a particular order, we can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by up to 75%. So scientists discovered that if you eat the veggies first during a meal, then the proteins and the fats, and then the carbs, so the starches and the sugars, then you can reduce the glucose spike of your meal by up to 75%. So this is an easy place to start. Next time you're faced with a meal, if there's a clear separation between the elements in the meal, have the veggies first, then the meats and the fats, and then leave the carbs like the rice, the pasta, the potatoes, the bread, and the desserts, obviously. Leave those for the end of the meal. And the reason this hack works is because veggies, when we eat them first, they create a powerful protective mesh in our intestine, thanks to all of the fiber they contain. This mesh then slows down how quickly glucose molecules from carbs coming later can make their way to your bloodstream.
Hack number 6.
After you eat, move. What do I mean by after you eat, move? Well, every single cell in our body uses glucose for energy. So if you sort of shake your finger cells are going to be burning glucose in order to be able to contract and make this movement. So the more and the harder a muscle is told to contract, the more glucose it's going to need in order to do so. So we can use this to our advantage. And here's the hack. After one meal of your day, use your muscles for 10 minutes. Very simply. Within 90 minutes after the end of your meal, move, get up, go for a 10-minute walk. You can clean your apartment, you can walk your dog, you can do your laundry, you can do the dishes. Yes, that counts.
Hack number 7.
If you want to snack, go savory. We really want to avoid eating sugar between meals because that's going to kick off a glucose roller coaster. So if you're really hungry between meals, have something savory. Maybe have a soft-boiled egg with some delicious sea salt on it. Maybe have a Greek yogurt with some unsweetened peanut butter in it. Maybe you can have some cheese on toast. Think about something savory that you enjoy and have that as a snack. And always keep sugar for after a meal if you can.
Well, that's it for today. Let us know if you would like us to discuss more on this topic. Please share your views with us in the comments section below. For now, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay healthy